The Thracians, once a powerful and independent people, found themselves increasingly threatened by the rise of external forces during the late stages of their civilization. From the 5th century BCE, the Thracian tribes faced mounting pressure from expanding Greek colonies, followed by the formidable Roman Empire. While the Thracians had a deep and rich culture, their political fragmentation, stemming from the lack of centralized governance, left them vulnerable to these encroaching powers. In the earlier centuries, the Thracians had been a force to be reckoned with, particularly in the region that now encompasses modern-day Bulgaria, Greece, and Turkey. The Thracian kingdoms, such as those of the Odrysian and the Getae, exercised substantial control over vast territories. However, their internal divisions and the absence of a unified, coordinated resistance contributed to their downfall. Their societies were highly tribal, and while these tribes could unite in times of war, they often fractured under external pressure. Despite these challenges, the Thracians were never easily conquered. They put up fierce resistance, particularly during conflicts with the Greek city-states and later with the expanding Roman Empire. Notably, their king, Cessus III of the Odrysian kingdom, managed to hold his ground for a time. But as the Roman Republic expanded its territories and influence, the fragmented Thracian territories found themselves unable to resist Rome's growing power and its military might. By the 1st century BCE, Thrace had largely been subdued and integrated into the Roman Empire. However, the influence of Thracian culture did not simply vanish with their fall. The remnants of Thracian traditions, language, and religious practices lived on, especially among the rural populations of the region. The process of Romanization ensured that Thracian identity was slowly absorbed into the wider cultural melting pot of the empire, but elements of their heritage survived in subtle ways, particularly in art and local customs. Even as Roman forces began to take control of Thrace, the native population continued to resist Roman domination for several centuries. The Thracians' resistance against the Romans can be seen as both a military struggle and a fight for cultural survival. Among the most notable examples of this resistance was the uprising led by the Thracian slave Spartacus, who rose up in 73 BCE against the Roman Republic. Spartacus, originally a gladiator, became the leader of one of the most significant slave revolts in Roman history, gathering a large army of runaway slaves and oppressed Thracians. This revolt shook the Roman Empire to its core, as the rebel forces won several key battles. Spartacus' army grew in size and strength, even managing to defeat some of Rome's most experienced legions. Although ultimately defeated and killed, Spartacus became a symbol of Thracian resistance and defiance against foreign domination. Beyond Spartacus, smaller uprisings continued to erupt throughout Thrace as the native population fought to preserve their freedom and traditional way of life. The Romans, however, had the upper hand in terms of military strategy and resources. Over time, the Thracian tribes were increasingly subdued, and many were forced to serve in the Roman military or as laborers in Roman agricultural systems. Despite these defeats, Thracian resistance was not entirely crushed. While their kingdoms were eventually absorbed into the Roman Empire, the Thracian people did not lose their identity overnight. Their rich cultural practices, religious rituals, and the distinctive elements of their language lived on, especially in the more isolated and mountainous regions. In these remote areas, the memory of their ancient warriors and kings continued to inspire future generations, even as they became subjects of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire's expansion into Thrace was accompanied by a process of Romanization, which deeply influenced the region's culture, economy, and political systems. Roman settlers, soldiers, and officials were sent to the conquered lands, bringing with them Roman architecture, law, and a new social structure. Over time, Thracian traditions began to mix with Roman customs, creating a unique blend of indigenous and Roman elements that characterized the region for centuries. Roman cities, roads, and fortifications sprang up across Thrace, marking the region's transition from a collection of independent tribes to a province of the Roman Empire. The construction of Roman infrastructure, such as the famous Via Egnatia, helped integrate Thrace into the empire's economic and military networks. Thracian elites were often co-opted into the Roman system, with some even attaining high positions in the imperial bureaucracy and military. In terms of religion, many Thracians began to adopt Roman gods and deities, while still maintaining some of their old beliefs. The cult of Zalmoxis, for instance, continued to influence religious practices for centuries after Roman conquest, although it was increasingly merged with Roman deities. Christianity also began to spread in the region, eventually replacing older pagan beliefs by the 4th century CE. The syncretic nature of Thracian religion during this period reflects the broader pattern of Romanization in the empire. The Thracian language, however, was slowly replaced by Latin and later by Greek, particularly in the more urbanized areas. Yet, in the rural hinterlands, many elements of the Thracian language persisted for centuries, especially in the form of folk traditions, place names, and oral histories. This blend of Thracian and Roman cultures left a lasting imprint on the Balkans, particularly in the areas that today encompass Bulgaria, Greece, and Turkey. After the Roman conquest of Thrace, many Thracians were incorporated into the Roman military as soldiers, providing both manpower and expertise in battle. The Thracians were renowned for their skills as warriors, especially as cavalry and light infantry. Their knowledge of local terrain, combined with their warrior ethos, made them valuable assets to the Roman legions. Thracian soldiers fought in many campaigns, both within the empire and on its frontiers. Some Thracians even rose to prominence within the Roman military, achieving high ranks and commanding Roman legions. The most famous of these was the Thracian general Tiberius Claudius Maximus, who served during the reign of Emperor Augustus. His military prowess and leadership earned him a place among the elite of Roman society, illustrating how Thracians could achieve success within the Roman system, despite their initial subjugation. Beyond the military, many Thracians also became Roman citizens, gaining access to Roman legal protections and privileges. As Roman citizens, they could participate in the Roman political system, own land, and enjoy a degree of social mobility. While they were still considered second-class citizens in some respects, their integration into Roman society marked the end of their status as an entirely separate people, and their assimilation into the broader Roman world. Over time, the Thracians, who had once fiercely resisted Roman rule, found themselves adapting to their new reality, embracing Roman customs, language, and even Roman governance. In some cases, former Thracian kings and nobles were given titles and responsibilities by the Roman emperor, becoming collaborators in the Roman system. This marked the beginning of a new phase for the Thracians, one in which they would no longer be a separate, distinct people, but part of the vast Roman emperor. Though the Thracian kingdoms were absorbed into the Roman Empire, their influence persisted long after their political fall. The Thracians contributed to the Roman Empire in several areas, including military strategy, agriculture, and culture. Their warrior ethos, agricultural practices, and local craftsmanship left a mark on the Roman world, while their deep spiritual connection to the land and the divine continued to influence local customs for centuries. Thracian soldiers, particularly their cavalry, became an integral part of the Roman military machine, serving as elite fighters in key Roman legions. The Thracian cavalry's expertise in hit-and-run tactics and their ability to navigate difficult terrain were instrumental in Roman campaigns. In recognition of their contributions, several Thracian military leaders rose through the ranks of the Roman army, with some even achieving the rank of consul. In the realm of art and architecture, Thracian designs and motifs made their way into Roman culture. Thracian jewelry, pottery, and sculptures, known for their distinctive style, were admired and incorporated into Roman artistic traditions. The Thracian emphasis on the supernatural and the afterlife influenced Roman religious practices, contributing to the empire's rich and diverse spiritual life. Ultimately, the Thracians became one of many cultures that were absorbed into the Roman Empire. Although their kingdoms and way of life were gone, their legacy lived on through the people, traditions, and ideas they left behind. The Thracians may have been conquered, but their impact on the Roman Empire, and by extension the modern world, continues to be felt today. Despite their integration into the Roman Empire, the Thracians faced a complex relationship with their new Roman rulers. While some Thracians flourished within the Roman system, others faced harsh treatment as they were subjugated and transformed into subjects of Roman rule. The Thracians, known for their fierce independence, found it difficult to fully embrace the Roman way of life, as many of their traditional values conflicted with the structured and imperial nature of Rome. These tensions led to sporadic revolts and uprisings throughout the region, where the Thracians sought to reclaim their autonomy. One of the most notable revolts came under the leadership of the Thracian gladiator Spartacus, who led one of the most famous slave revolts against Rome in 73 BCE. Although Spartacus was not a king, his leadership and the insurgency of Thracians and other enslaved peoples from the region highlighted the deep resentment that many Thracians harbored against their Roman overlords. Despite the eventual defeat of the rebel forces, the rebellion underscored the ongoing struggle of the Thracians to retain their cultural identity and resist Roman domination. In addition to these uprisings, many Thracians integrated into Roman society as soldiers, traders, and civilians. The Roman army, in particular, relied heavily on Thracians for their military expertise. Thracian soldiers were known for their use of the faux, a curved weapon that became an iconic part of the Roman military. Thracians who served in the Roman legions were often granted Roman citizenship and could rise to high ranks. Though they still remained culturally connected to their roots, this dual identity was a source of both pride and conflict as they navigated their roles within the Roman system. Ultimately, the relationship between the Thracians and the Romans was one of negotiation and adaptation. While the Thracians' desire for independence never fully vanished, many came to accept their place within the empire. Over time, the Romanization of Thrace led to the assimilation of Thracian culture into Roman society, though many elements of their traditions, particularly their art, religion, and folklore, continued to survive. Despite the challenges and conflicts, the Thracians proved to be resilient, adapting their identities while still preserving the core of their heritage within the Roman framework. Though the Thracians were eventually subsumed into the Roman Empire, their cultural and genetic legacy persisted long after their political independence was lost. The Thracian influence can still be seen in the modern populations of the Balkans, particularly in the regions of Bulgaria, Greece, and Turkey, which were once part of the ancient Thracian heartlands. Many people in these areas still trace their ancestry back to the ancient Thracians, and their customs, folklore, and traditions reflect this enduring connection to the past. Modern archaeological discoveries continue to uncover the secrets of the Thracians, revealing their complex and sophisticated society. The Thracians' contributions to art, architecture, and metallurgy are evident in the many surviving artifacts, such as the famous Thracian gold treasures and intricate burial sites like those found in the Valley of the Thracian Kings. These discoveries have helped to reassert the Thracians' place in the history of the ancient world, as they were once overshadowed by the more famous civilizations of Greece and Rome. Cultural expressions rooted in Thracian traditions also continue to thrive in the region. Folk music, dance, and festivals that have their origins in Thracian rituals and practices remain an important part of the cultural identity in modern-day Bulgaria and neighboring countries. These traditions often incorporate elements of the ancient Thracian worldview, particularly their respect for nature, the gods, and the warrior ethos that defined much of their society. As such, the Thracian legacy lives on in the daily lives and cultural practices of the people who call the ancient land of Thrace their home. In conclusion, the Thracian kings and their people may no longer rule the lands they once dominated, but their legacy endures. Through their cultural contributions, their resistance against foreign invaders, and their lasting influence on the Roman Empire, the Thracians helped shape the history of the Balkans and beyond. As their story continues to unfold through archaeological and historical research, the Thracians' resilience and cultural richness remain an integral part of the ancient heritage that still resonates in the hearts and minds of modern-day descendants. The impact of the Thracians on the Balkans can still be felt today. Although their political and military dominance ended centuries ago, their cultural, linguistic, and genetic imprint on the region is undeniable. The Thracians were among the first to establish complex societies in the Balkans, and their influence on the development of the region's art, architecture, and religious practices remains significant. Thracian traditions, beliefs, and customs have been passed down through the generations, helping to shape the identity of modern-day people in the Balkans. One of the most enduring aspects of Thracian influence is their contribution to the region's archaeological and cultural heritage. From the magnificent tombs and burial mounds of the Thracian kings to the intricate gold and silver artifacts, the material culture left behind by the Thracians provides a window into their sophisticated and vibrant civilization. Sites such as the ancient city of Perperikon in Bulgaria and the Thracian tombs in Kazanlak continue to draw attention from historians, archaeologists, and tourists alike, eager to learn more about this fascinating civilization. Moreover, the legacy of the Thracians can also be seen in the way that the people of the Balkans celebrate their ancient heritage. Many modern-day festivals and cultural events in Bulgaria, Greece, and Turkey incorporate elements of Thracian traditions, from music and dance to religious rituals and culinary practices. These events provide a living connection to the past, allowing younger generations to appreciate the rich cultural heritage of their ancestors and maintain a sense of pride in their Thracian roots. In the end, the Thracians may have been absorbed into larger empires, but their contributions to the cultural and historical tapestry of the Balkans remain indispensable. From the relics they left behind to the traditions they helped forge, the Thracians continue to influence the identity and development of the region, ensuring that their legacy will never be forgotten.